Welcome to Downtown Sports. My name is Downtown Stephen Brown, and today we're just going to jump right into the video topic. And today we're going to be talking about Mitch Marner. And I know it's a very touchy subject among Leaf fans, so I'm going to try to navigate the situation and the topic as carefully as I possibly can. Forgive me if I make a couple of mistakes. I haven't done this in a while. But today we're going to be talking about notable RFA comparables that are also on the market this offseason. Is Mitch Marner worth Auston Matthews' money? What an ideal offer to Mitch Marner can look like, how he can maybe get Auston Matthews money without having an Auston Matthews cap hit, which would be sick. I mean, if we could pull something like that off. And lastly, what the hell is an offer sheet? Should we be worried about it? Is it something that, we should be scared of? Because there's been a lot of talk of it lately. So I'm going to jump right into the first one that I mentioned, and we're going to look at other notable RFAs that are on the market this offseason. And as we can see here, what this graphic is the metrics are at even strength. And the main thing that we're going to be paying attention to is the purple bar. The purple bar is points per 60 at even strength. So as we can see here, Mitch Marner killed it last season. So did Braden Point, so did Mikko Rantanen, and so did Sebastian Aho. And I threw those guys up there because those are kind of the big name, big fish RFAs that are on the market this offseason. But I mean, Mikko Rantanen and Sebastian Aho, they're just up there for comparison's sake. Braden Point is the really interesting one because nobody's really talking about him making $11 million in Tampa Bay, or him even making as much or more than the highest paid player on the Tampa Bay Lightning, which is Nikita Kucherov. And Nikita Kucherov is on this graphic as a bit of a bonus because in the 2017-2018 season, he went off. And to reward him, the Tampa Bay Lightning rewarded him with a $9.5 million a year contract for 8 seasons. But the important thing to look at with that deal is the percentage of the cap hit. And the percentage of the cap hit is 11.95%. Remember that number, 11.95%. We're going to revisit that a little later on in the video. So we can see here Nikita Kucherov, in the season that he got that massive contract, slightly outperformed Mitch Marner this season. So with that said, we're going to move on to our next thing here, and that is Mitch Marner worth Auston Matthews' money? And another graphic should be on the screen here, and this is the same idea. It's even strength metrics, and we're going to be looking at the purple bar again, points per 60. And this is Auston Matthews and Mitch Marner in their first 2 seasons in the league. Now, in their first 2 seasons in the league, Auston Matthews absolutely crushes Mitch Marner here. I'm sorry, Mitch, but it's not really that close. Auston Matthews was a top 10 player in the league his first 2 seasons. Mitch Marner, top 30, top 50 player in the league his first 2 seasons as well. But, I mean, we're not going to give you $11 million to be a top 30, top 50 player in the league. That's got to be top 10 just like Auston was. So, I mean, now things get a little bit hairier when we're looking at this past season. Because Mitch kind of closed the gap. And this is that same thing. It's even strength metrics, points per 60. Mitch Marner, not only does he close that gap, but he kind of passes Auston Matthews a little bit. But, I mean, hockey isn't played with stats and graphs and stuff like that. So let's talk about what that purple bar means. What actually happened to make this scenario play out here? Well, I mean, the Maple Leafs signed John Tavares, and Mitch Marner almost exclusively played with John Tavares. And I think the importance of that is that John Tavares has been known as a player notoriously throughout his entire career that he's been known to make other wingers and other players on his line much, much better. And I'm not saying that Mitch Marner's 94-point season or however many points he had was a product of John Tavares, because Mitch Marner is an amazing player on his own. He's an elite player in this league, and he's an amazing player for the Toronto Maple Leafs. But getting to play with John Tavares on a regular basis is a benefit, and it's something that we definitely cannot ignore, especially in something as massive as a contract negotiation. Now, I mean, let's look at Auston Matthews here. Auston Matthews had an amazing season. I mean, at one point, he was on pace for a goal a game almost for the first 15, 20 games of the season. Then he got injured, he came back, and was just as amazing, basically. But, I mean, when we look at Auston Matthews' season, he didn't have his boy. He didn't have, his Swedish friend, William Nylander, playing on his wing for very much of the season. I mean, William Nylander sat out. with his contract dispute that he was going through, and we're not going to get into that at all. But he didn't have William Nylander, and then when he did, William Nylander wasn't really at his best. I think that Leaf fans can admit that. Nylander had an okay season. I'm not gonna touch on that too much, but William Nylander was not William Nylander last season. So what did Auston Matthews have to work with last season? Well, he had Patrick Marleau, which was interesting, and maybe we'll talk about that another day. He also had Kasperi Kapanen, who kind of lit the world on fire the first half of the season and then kind of cooled off like the polar bear or something like that, or a freezy on a hot day. Let's go with that. But he also had Andreas Johnsson, who was injured the first half of the season, wasn't really that great, and then he caught fire and was playing amazing. So I mean, when you look at the quality of line mates that both these players had, it's not really close to say that Auston Matthews didn't have a player like John Tavares on his line, and if he did, we might be having a different conversation right now. And it's also notable to point out that in the minutes that Mitch Marner didn't play with John Tavares, his points per 60, so that purple bar, regresses much closer to what it was in his first 2 seasons. So that's also something to be weary of. But, I mean, they're both amazing players. They both had amazing seasons. I'm not going to try to take away anything from that. Another thing that we have to be conscious about is that Auston Matthews is a centerman, and he scores goals. If we're looking at the green bar here, we can just shift our attention 1 bar over to on the graph. Auston Matthews scores at a ridiculous pace. This guy's an elite goal scorer. He's been better than Alex Ovechkin and more efficient than Connor McDavid his first 3 years in the league. This guy is an amazing sniper out there. And the thing that gets you paid in the league is if you're a center and if you're a goal scorer. Auston Matthews is both of those things, and unfortunately Mitch Marner is neither of those things. So that's something that definitely doesn't play in favor of Mitch. So now I'm just gonna take a break from the stats and stuff like that and the numbers, and we're just gonna talk about what the hell are these offer sheets. Now, offer sheets, they're really complicated and they're really simple all at once. First, let's talk about why other general managers might be kind of hesitant to hand out offer sheets. Now, let's just use this as an example because it's been tossed around there a lot. The Maple Leafs stole John Tavares away from the island. Alright, Lou Lamoriello's upset. What if Lou Lamoriello offer sheets Mitch Marner? Okay, that's a real thing. It's a scenario that could happen, but then what are the ramifications for the New York Islanders? Well, the New York Islanders have Matthew Barzal to sign next year, who's gonna want a lot of money as an RFA. And if Lou Lamoriello goes out and gives big money to Mitch Marner, then the asking price for Matthew Barzal is going to go way up there. And I don't think that other general managers around the league are really interested in making things more expensive for themselves. So that's one huge reason that I don't think an offer sheet is going to happen, but also just because of the way that it breaks down. So let's say a team were to swoop in and offer Mitch Marner $11 million. That would put Mitch Marner in the highest tier of RFA compensation, which starts at $10.568590 million. And I'll throw that up there on the screen so that I don't have to say that again. And if a team were to offer him more money than that, or just that much money, they would owe the Maple Leafs 4 unprotected first-round picks. Are you insane? I don't know how any general manager around the league can watch what happened in Ottawa this past season and confidently give away 4 unprotected first-round picks, even for a guy of Mitch Marner's stature. I mean, the guy's not very tall, but he puts up a lot of points, and that's why we're even talking about this right now. But the scary situation is if a team offers Mitch Marner $1 less. So $1 less would be $10.568589 million. And I'll throw that number up there on the screen so that I don't have to say it again. And if a team were to offer him that much money or less, then the RFA compensation would only be 2 firsts, a second, and a third. Which at that point, I'm not getting up in the morning for that much for Mitch Marner. The Maple Leafs would match that probably instantly, and be forced to pay Mitch Marner $10.5 million, which is not an ideal scenario. But then we go back on what I just said a minute ago, in that whichever GM hands Mitch Marner that contract, he's just going to cost himself in the future, because every other amazing RFA in the future is just going to point out Mitch Marner's contract and be like, give me that much money or else. You know, I'm going to test an offer sheet. And another thing that we have to look at is Mitch Marner has to actually want to sign the damn thing. And I mean, if the Leafs are offering, let's just say the Leafs are offering $9.5 million. Let's say they're being a stickler, even $9 million. Is Mitch Marner really gonna leave over $1 million, $1.5 million a year? Have you watched TV lately, or any kind of streaming service, something like that? Every other commercial, when you're watching Sportsnet or TSN, it's Mitch Marner doing things for Visa, Apple, Beats, Red Bull. You know, the list goes on. And Chris Johnson even went on the record to say that this guy lived for free in a downtown condo. Now, I mean, it's just insane. So, I mean, to lure Mitch Marner away from the Toronto Maple Leafs, it's, you know, you can't just offer him $1 million more than what the Leafs are. You can't just offer him $1.5 million more than what the Leafs are. You're going to have to offer him $2.5 million, $3 million than what the Leafs are. But then, if you do that, you're getting into that territory of over that $10.568590 million number, and then you own the Maple Leafs 4 first-round picks. So, not an ideal situation, and that's why I don't think an offer sheet is going to happen. Now, let's go back and let's look at some other numbers here. Let's look at what an ideal Mitch Marner contract looks like. If I could just bring that up on the screen. Okay. Now, there's this graph up on the screen with different color bars. You're going to say to yourself, Steven, what the hell is that? Well, remember that 11.95% number that I was talking about before? This is what 11.95% of the cap looks like if the cap were $82 million. And what this basically breaks down to is $9.8 million a year. And you're gonna see here that I've put 6 years on the graph here, because I mean, I've just settled with the fact that Mitch Marner's not gonna sign an 8-year contract. I'm sorry, guys, it's just not gonna happen. If you want 8 years, you're gonna have to pay full market value. The same scenario with Auston Matthews. He said, okay, I'll sign 8, but I want 14 mil. And Kyle Dubas was like, okay, let's talk about a different number. And I mean, that scenario is very real with Mitch Marner as well. I don't, you know, maybe we can take the $11 million away from him, but we're not gonna take that away from him. Too, he's get 6 years. I've made peace with it. So $9.8 million and 6 years, which totals out to be about $58.5 million bucks. But the one advantage that the Maple Leafs have over almost every other team in the league is that they have more money. They have more money, and they're part of a very select number of teams that can offer Mitch Marner a contract like this, where they just front load the crap out of it. All right, the two highest paid players in the league are Auston Matthews and John Tavares in terms of salary. Auston Matthews and John Tavares are set to make $15.9 million this upcoming season. And they get that in the form of a signing bonus that's worth $15.2 million. And that's what I've done here. I've given Mitch Marner the maximum that he can get in a single season for the first 2 years. That's right. Mitch Marner could possibly walk away with $15.2 million the second he signs his contract, and then another $15.2 million the following July 1st, or whenever they work that out. So that means Mitch Marner could be making a pretty penny in just 13 months, in the first 13 months of that contract. And I mean, we have other players. I'm going to change the scene now. We have other players around the league like Jack Eichel, who just make a straight 10. They just make a straight $10 million every single year, and that's it. To see the same amount of money that Mitch Marner would see if he signed a similar deal to what I'm proposing, Jack Eichel would have to wait 2.5 to 3 seasons. Mitch Marner could get that in 13 months. And that's the advantage that the Maple Leafs have here. Forget the Florida income tax, stuff like that. This is the real advantage here. It's the advantage of being able to give players more up front, right? If Mitch Marner says, show me the money, Kyle Dubas can definitely show him the money come July 1st. And, I mean, listen, we all just want Mitch in the Toronto Maple Leaf uniform, so let's just make that happen.
What about 10 million a year?
Fine! Hey, it's me, Steven. I just want to say thank you for making it this far into the video. And if you did notice a little bit of an echo throughout the video, it's because I was listening to the levels with my headphones prior to, and I just didn't unplug them. That's not something that's going to be common around here. Probably not a great way to start, but, you know, like I said, I haven't done this in a long time. And, you know, it's a learning process. So we'll do this together, and, you know, we'll both get better at it. Thank you so much, and if you have any questions or anything like that, you can leave them in the comments section. I'd be happy to get back to you, or you can just yell at me on Twitter, you know? So I'm just gonna hang around until you hit the like button and subscribe. Yep, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm just here. Hoping you all have a good day. Hit the like button, maybe. Alright, for real. Take care, everyone.